The Tao of Self-Confidence, Episode 47. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of courageous women finding their inner journey to self-confidence 5 days a week. Want to learn how you can change your inner beliefs and attitudes? Download a free copy of the ebook by visiting thetaoofselfconfidence.com. Well, hello friend. Welcome to the Tao of Self-Confidence, where I share stories of amazing women who have discovered their inner journey to self-confidence. I'm your host today, Sheena Yap-Chan, and today's guest, she is a special lady. She also has her own successful podcast. It's called Women Taking the Lead, so be sure to check that out on iTunes or Stitcher. And she also has her own coaching business, which is called Luma Coaching. And without further ado, I just want to introduce you to Jodi Flynn. Jodi, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. How are you? And maybe you can fill in a little bit more about yourself to the listeners.
Sure. Okay, great. Thank you so much. I am great, Sheena. Thank you for having me on your podcast, and thank you to your listeners. I'm really excited to be sharing my own self-confidence story with everybody. Like you said, I am the host of Women Taking the Lead, and Women Taking the Lead, the intention of my podcast is we are aligned in our purposes, because the intention of Women Taking the Lead is to inspire women from humble beginnings to overcome self-doubt so they can lead with confidence, integrity, and a sense of humor. So I was so honored that you reached out and asked me to be on your show. It was like a fist pump in the air moment. And I also have a coaching business that I've had for 5 years. In Luma Coaching, I coach small business owners and corporate executives around their leadership skills, so their communication, relationship building, and most of all, their self-leadership, to make them better leaders in their organization so that they're getting the results they want, and mostly to be living the lifestyle that they want to be living. So that's kind of me in the nutshell, other than to say, I live in southern Maine, which is beautiful. This time of year, there are long winters, but we definitely make up for it with the summers and the falls that we have. I am from a large family, a New Englander. I came from Worcester, Massachusetts. And I'm just focusing on my podcast and my business and trying to expand my reach and make a difference in the world.
Thanks for sharing that, Jodi. And, I love how we both have the same vision. It's really to empower women to just live a better life, right? Mm-hmm. And to me, the more the merrier, right?
Yes. Don't we all want to be surrounded by people who are overjoyed with how great their lives are?
For sure, right? I always say like attracts like.
That is true. It's very true.
So, Jodi, what's your cultural background?
I am Irish Catholic. I grew up in a big Irish family, and like I said, in Worcester. Grew up in the Catholic faith, although I'm not practicing right now. I still attend Mass every now and again, especially when my parents come to visit. So, and what was interesting is recently, over the last couple of years, we've done more family tree history, and actually it was more than a couple of years ago, but I remember my brother reaching out to me and saying hey, we're related to Pocahontas. And I was like, no, we're not. That's such crap. Where did you hear that? Who made that up? But actually, my mother showed me all the documents and the family tree. And sure enough, my mother's father's side of the family, I believe, was descended from John Smith and Pocahontas. They had one child together before she died. And so that's really wild to know that my family was actually on North America for thousands of years before. And then, some of them went back to England and then into Ireland, and then from Ireland back to North America. So that's kind of a wild journey.
That's a pretty interesting fact. Imagine, I'm pretty sure you were pretty shocked when you were like, wow, Pocahontas.
Yeah. I was like, okay, cool. Now I have to look, find out more about her. It automatically made me more interested in her and that time period and stuff. So definitely intrigued me. But I think, I'm watching some documentaries on TV now. I think if we could all do, the blood tests and the family trees, we're all related to someone who's been famous in history, but it's nice when you find out who they are, because you can point to them and go, that person.
For sure. I haven't gone through that yet, so maybe one day I will go through my family heritage. But for now, podcasting.
Yeah.
So, Jodi, what is your favorite self-confidence quote?
I often quote Helen Keller. She's one of my favorite people in history, and she has this great quote. It's, "Optimism is the faith that leads to achievement. Nothing can be done without hope and confidence." And I love that because what it also breaks out is that when you are optimistic, there's hope and confidence in that, right? You have confidence that there will be an ideal outcome, even if you can't see it right now. So I take strength from that quote.
Awesome. And I love that, right? Because as, true entrepreneurs, we believe it before we could see it, right? I mean, we see it in our heads, we visualize it, we see the success is already there. We just have to go and take it. So, that is a very important quote because a lot of people out there has this see it before they can believe it type of mentality, but really you have to change it and, you already have to see it, believe it before you can see it. So thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
And in your own words, how would you define self-confidence?
That's a really great question. I see self-confidence as the belief in myself. And I want to break that apart. It's not because I think I'm perfect, right? Or that I'm fully capable. It's that I have a belief in myself that I can figure it out along the way. And that gives me self-confidence. So self-confidence for me is really just the belief in yourself that you can overcome whatever comes your way.
Awesome. I love that definition. And I know as women, we are capable of overcoming so many hurdles, right? I mean, we go through so much stuff, over men, for sure. I think we do. I mean, we have to go through pregnancy.
You can stop right there.
Yeah, pretty much. We trump them, right? So to all the listeners out there, especially the ladies, you can overcome anything, right? It's all in the mindset. So thank you for sharing that, Jodi. And what was your life like before the discovery of self-confidence?
Well, I will say people are always shocked by this because I'm a pretty outgoing and confident person now. But growing up, I was absolutely not. My mom used to refer to me as a street angel home devil. And really what was going on there was I felt completely free to be myself, right? And do what I wanted and say what I wanted when I was at home with my family. But out in the world, I did not feel that way at all. I was incredibly shy. I was just silent. My teachers loved me because I didn't talk during class. I paid attention. I sat still. But a lot of it was I was just afraid to do anything else. And I actually was so shy, I trained myself to breathe silently, so that I wouldn't draw any attention to myself. And I hated being sent to the store or sent into stores when I was younger because I was afraid somebody I didn't know would come up and talk to me. And the experience I had, I'd be so overwhelmed that, if an adult came up to, now, not like a small child, even when I was say 10 or 12 years old, when an adult would approach and ask me a question or say something, it sounded like, the adults on Charlie Brown, the cartoon where they're like, wah, 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 wah. I was just so I don't know what it was. I was just so scared, and I didn't, and looking back, I realized I had no confidence then. I didn't believe in myself. I didn't see myself as worthy. I felt so small in life. And it really shaped my friendships and how I was in friendships too, that I would just be so grateful if someone would be my friend, which is so crazy to me looking back now. I was fun, so, if I could get over, being scared, at home, I was a ton of fun, but out in the world, that's just not who I was. And every time I had to start a new school, oh my God, I thought I was going to have a panic attack. It was awful.
Wow. I can kind of relate to you when it's moving to new schools. I mean, because we moved from the Philippines to Canada, back again to the Philippines, back again to Canada. So the change in environment was totally different.
Yeah.
And it is nerve-wracking, right? But it's just getting through it every single day. It gets easier and easier. Jodi, what was that aha moment when you realized, you can shine even outside the house, right? People would love you for who you are.
Yeah, it was a painful experience, but I look back and go, oh my gosh, that was a moment, one of those best things that ever happened to me moments. But I had a friend. We were friends since we were in kindergarten. So we went to school together. Other than 1 year in junior high, we pretty much went to school together. And we were juniors in high school. And, I hung around with her a lot. She was very gregarious, very cheerful, very high energy. She always had people around her. So I liked being around her because then I would be around a bunch of different people, but the attention wouldn't be on me. It would be on her, right? She was definitely, center stage, and that definitely worked for me. And I liked that. And I guess what had happened was, some people noticed like, hey, Jodi's always hanging around you and she's like your shadow. And so she wrote me a note and passed it to me. I believe we were in biology or some science. I remember it was a science class because we were talking about phlebotomy. Like that's how this moment lives for me. It's like I know exactly what the teacher was talking about as I was reading this note. And it was like a breakup note, one of those like, I need my space. You're always around me. I think you need to start making friends on your own. And oh my God, I just went cold and I felt like I'd been kicked in the gut and I was so embarrassed. And I knew that other people knew what was written in that note and they were watching me as I read it. And I remember just being in shock, and I had gym the next period, and I went to gym class and we were in the locker rooms and we were starting to change, and someone, one of the other girls in my gym class who, I got along with, but I wasn't super close with, came up to me and looked at me and was like, what's wrong? What's going on? And I started to cry, and she was like, oh my God, what is going on? And I just passed the note to her. And, some of the other girls in my class were starting to gather, and they were reading the note too. And they were like, oh my God, who does she think she is? That's not right. That's so rude, and I was shocked because they were sticking up for me, right? These people I wasn't super close with, but, I got along with, and they were like, you don't need her. You don't need a friend like that. You can hang out with us. And, right, this is like not the stories you normally hear about high school girls. Like when you see TV shows about high school, it's always like the bad things that happen. But this was like a completely different experience. And, so I pulled myself together and I was like, okay. And I did. I started hanging out with different people. And what I learned was they appreciated me for who I was. Like I didn't need to be any certain way to make it okay to hang out with them, and I started opening up more and sharing my thoughts and cracking jokes and stuff like that. And, Sheena, that's when I came to realize like I was funny. Like people find me to be funny, that the things I say make them laugh, and that I look at the world just a little bit differently, and they enjoy hearing what my perspective on different situations were. And it was the experience of just like more and more, the more people just accepted me for who I was, the more I opened up and shared more of who I was. And that was a complete turning point in my life. And it's the complete before and after. Like when people who knew me before that moment, when they find out what I'm doing in my life now, they're shocked. And people who meet me now, when I tell them stories of how I used to be when I was a child, they're shocked. It's like I'm two different people, night and day.
Wow, I love that story. I think we should make a movie out of that, I'm sick of watching these high school movies, and there's always like the mean girls. Why can't we make a movie about the nice girls, right? So
I know.
That's very inspiring, right? I mean, because of that one incident, it actually changed the course of your life, right? You were able to be yourself in and out of the house, and I really love that. And ever since that moment, what's your life been like now?
Oh my gosh, it's crazy awesome. And I will add one thing else to the story because I think it's really important. The friend who wrote me the note, we did reconcile. Like we were polite and cordial in high school, but it was when we went to college. She wrote me a different letter, and it was I'm sorry I didn't appreciate you. You are one of my closest friends. You've been, there with me forever. You know me better than most people know me. Please tell me we can still be friends. And we reconciled and we've been friends ever since. And she's been very supportive of me in my life ever since. And who I've become, to the point where she's even shared, I'm so proud and so amazed of the woman you've become, in your life. So who am I now? It's so funny. I'm an entrepreneur, which is crazy, that there was a time in my life when I didn't have confidence, and I blindly and confidently went into entrepreneurship. And now I'm coaching other people on how to communicate better and build relationships and lead themselves and lead others. And, that I do leadership coaching, right? Because it's very, very, very difficult to be a leader and not have confidence, right? It's almost impossible. You're leading, but not in the right direction. And that I'm coaching other people on how to develop their leadership and gain more confidence is so wild and such an honor to me as well. And then I have a podcast, like I'm sharing my voice out. I do interview episodes, but every now and again, I'll do a bonus episode where I'm just kind of sharing my thoughts and talking about a certain topic and giving some tips, and that it's being received. And I do public speaking now too. Like I do workshops, I facilitate workshops, I do speaking engagements. I've completely changed my perspective on what is a real threat. Right? Because when we don't feel confident, it's because we feel threatened by something, right? Whether it's our own lack of knowledge, or what are people going to think if I do this, or I'm going to be judged. And, I still have those thoughts, right? I still wonder, what do people think about me, or are they judging me? But I don't let it bother me as much as I did when I was younger. The reason why I was so shy is I was just so afraid that I was going to do the wrong thing and say the wrong thing. So I couldn't do anything, right? I was so petrified and paralyzed when I was out of the house because I was so worried about that, like doing the right thing, saying the right thing. What are people thinking about me? How am I being judged? And, I've learned over time that people are going to think what they think. You're going to do what you do. You're going to say what you say, and it's all going to be fine. Right. And when you can let go of all that stuff, you're actually better able to do and say the things you actually want to be doing and saying.
Thank you for sharing that. I mean, I'm so happy for you. You have so many things going on. And, the one thing that I really love that you said was you went into entrepreneurship, blindly, right? Yes. Because a lot of women out there, they think you have to know everything to be an entrepreneur. And really, most entrepreneurs have no clue what they're doing.
Right, right.
They just have a vision. They know what they want, right? And they'll do whatever it takes to figure it out. I mean, I did the same thing. I had no clue what I was doing. Even with this podcast, I was like, I don't know, right? But I knew it was a great platform to share women's stories. So I was willing to do whatever it takes to make it work. And, I want the listeners to realize that if you want to be an entrepreneur and if you have that burning desire inside of you, just get started. Don't worry about if you screw up, if you make mistakes, if, people think you're nuts, because I'm sure me and Jodi went through the same thing. So,
oh, yeah. Everybody makes mistakes. Yeah. Right? You can't know everything that you're going to come across. And I'll say this, Sheena, I don't want to scare anybody, but I always say this. I'm glad I didn't know everything that was going to happen when I became an entrepreneur, because I wouldn't have believed that I can do it. And here's the crazy thing, because I went into it somewhat blindly, blissfully ignorant. I just dealt with things as they came up, like one at a time. New challenge. Okay, how do I deal with this? And I dealt with it. But in the first year, that happens a lot. You just it's nothing to be frightened of. You just deal with things as they come up one at a time, and you get over it. And in retrospect, you look back on the year that just happened, and you look at everything you've overcome, and you are just amazed. I was just amazed at myself. I can't believe I just did all that. And if I had known I was going to go through that in the first year, I would have freaked out. But that's everything in life. If you want to be a parent and you worry about every bad thing that might happen as a parent, you'll never become a parent. Right? But that's not what most people think about when they go into parenthood. They think about the excitement and the fulfillment and the joy. that they'll experience. And it's the same thing with entrepreneurship. I mean, yes, you want to be somewhat prepared. You want to, glean from other people what they've went through, Google what are the things that I should be thinking about, if I'm going to start a business, get yourself some knowledge, but don't hesitate. Don't slow down. Like, go for it and make it happen.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And it's true. I always believe action trumps everything, even if it's the wrong action, because it'll still lead you to the right actions. So.
Right. And here's the other thing, Sheena, really quickly. Yeah. You can't gain confidence without action. Confidence comes after action.
For sure. I totally agree. So Jodi, to the listeners out there, if they're on their own journey to self-confidence and they've been listening to your story, listening to what you have to say, what would be that one tip you would give to them?
That is a great question. I would say if I were to sum up like everything we've been talking about in a nutshell, it's just believe in yourself. Believe that you can overcome whatever comes at you. That's where confidence comes from.
I love it. Great tip. I mean, it really does start with believing in yourself, right? Once you can start believing in yourself and get committed and just take action, that's when the magic happens. So, Jodi, if the listeners wanted to get a little more info about your coaching and they want to listen to your podcast, is there any links or any social media profiles we can connect with?
Yeah, the best place to go, it's my hub, is womentakingthelead.com, or they can use the short link, which is womentl.com. And right on that page, they can download a document that has the top 5 leadership challenges for women and the solutions to them. So if that's something they're interested in, they can put their name and email in the box and get that download. It's kind of a slick PDF that I think they'll enjoy. And all my social media buttons are along the top of the website as well, so they can come hang out with me, whichever platform is their favorite. And I would say hello, reach out to me if there's any challenges that you're experiencing or you just want to say hi. I love hearing from people, so don't hesitate, reach out to me.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Jodi. And to the listeners, you can also head over to thetaoofselfconfidence.com and search for Jodi's name. Her show notes will pop up along with everything else we talked about. And I just want to thank Jodi for taking her time to share her story. I still think you need to make a movie based on your moment. I think it would be like a fan favorite.
I love that. And Sheena, thank you so much for having me. And to everyone who's been listening, this has been so much fun.
Awesome. Well, thanks again. And to the listeners out there, be sure to look out for another new episode of another amazing woman's story to self-confidence, and we'll catch you later. Bye for now. Thank you for joining us on another episode of The Tao of Self-Confidence. Visit thetaoofselfconfidence.com for links to everything we chatted about today, as well as killer resources, gifts, and so much more. Subscribe to The Tao of Self-Confidence on iTunes or Stitcher to hear more stories of amazing women finding their inner journey to self-confidence.